Right, going into the final stages of this drawing, taking a good look at what I've done here, and I think it does need a bit of improvement just to get the colors right on this green section. I'm going to work a little more into it with some violet before I go to the stem. You'll notice the shape is slightly different from the plant, which I've had to move incidentally to make space for the paper. Please forgive me, last video there wasn't such a good view. The paper was slightly skew and I didn't realize, so hopefully this time you'll be able to see more of what's going on. So more pink in here. Pressing quite hard here, rubbing the colors together to blend them. Touch more yellow, lighter color here. And perhaps a little more white. Just to lighten this section. You can do quite a lot of blending with the actual pastel itself, especially with the overlay. A little more green. It's darker green. Almost a grey green. I think that's enough on there for the time being. Now I'm going to start on the stem using this dark green on this edge that's in the shade side. Put that in quite strongly. There won't be as much overlay on these colors because not as complex as the other parts of the flower. And a little brown. That little tip. This paper is quite a rough surface, being a watercolor cold pressed paper. One could also use a smoother paper, which would give you a cleaner edge. Perhaps on my next demonstration I will use a smoother paper just to show you the difference. Blend that in with the brown. Add a little of that sienna type brown here. Just in there. There's a little of it here too. Just notice that now. Often when working with one color, you can pick up where else it's needed. I'm going to blend this in over the green, the dark green. So here we get a light green when it mixes with the yellow. I'm working quite vigorously, as you can see. Get the nice strong light on the side. Again, we'll try and get a harder edge on this. The brush. Quite nice. Maybe a little more of that brighter yellow just here for balance. Some lighter pink. I've created my own shape with this section. It just seemed to work nicely compositionally on the paper, changing it slightly from the real thing. And I think just to enhance this, I'm going to sketch in, add some leaves in the background. But I need to get the leaf sample for that so we can see. And here we have, it's a huge leaf, so it's very difficult to include in the actual demonstration, but I'm going to put it where I can see it for color purposes to get the colors right. It's a nice dark green, which I'm going to use just to sketch in a leaf shape or two. I think just behind here would work very nicely. I have to be careful not to spoil the composition as a whole, not to let my paper disappear again, as it did in the last demonstration. So I'm adding these shapes just to work for the picture itself. Maybe another one here. So it'll come behind there. Narrower leaf. Let's hope it doesn't mess up the whole composition. I might put another one here later on, but I won't do it at the moment, so as not to have my hand over it. Dust off bits of residue. And I'm going to strongly put in this dark green. Just to test these colors. Not quite sure which one's going to work. Maybe a mixture of the two. So I think I'll start with the dull green. And then there's also this green. It's a bit too bright. And then I can enhance the dark edges with some violet if necessary. So I'm going to start with this green. Filling in getting my edge. It's going to firm up the edge. This is something in art which I often find really fantastic. Help in pushing an image forward. If you work into the negative space of an image, as I'm doing here, it can really make a difference to the whole picture. if the correct colors are used. Here with green being close to blues and complementary of a violet, of a orange color, a cooler color and a warm color alongside of one another makes for a good vibrancy, makes the colors jump. I'm really jumping in the deep end here, not knowing what the results are going to be, but I want you to gain something from that. This lesson is not very contrived, it's just as I would be working and experimenting with a subject which I haven't really done a lot of, especially in oil pastel. Other mediums, yes, but not in this particular medium. So I'm learning as I go and sharing my process with you, mistakes and all. And you'll see the difference where it's close to a similar color, you don't get that same vibrancy. I'm going to break up the color a bit now. I'm adding some short marks so I can fill in some other colors in between, some other shades of green. I'll leave space for a bit of a vein running down the center. This is quite a large format, and it's better to work on a larger format, especially if you're used to working small. Oil pastels are very tricky if you try to work small because of the nature of the pastel. It's a chubby stick to work with. Alright, so that's a start. I'm going to put in some flecks of this brighter green. At this stage of drawing, people often say, "Oh, my picture's not working, it doesn't look good." And it's too early. It's too early to judge because as the process goes, the picture changes. I've got, I think, I'm going to use a little violet with the green here just to bring out those orange petals even more. With the flower being the focal point, this is where the colors have to pull the viewer's eye in to the picture. I'll add a bit more here too to enhance this edge of the stem. Down here. You would have gathered by now what a useful color violet is. Now the actual vein is a lot lighter in color. You'll see on this leaf it's a much lighter shade, and then there are some beautiful veins running upwards, which I'm going to try and achieve later on by scratching through the color. So we get that lighter vein in there. Now, I need to get a much paler green, which I do have somewhere. Perhaps this white's going to work. Just to blend the colours in and just soften it. Now let's use the torchlight. Do some rubbing in here. Blending. I'm working in the direction of the flow of this leaf. I'll clean up the edges later on. Rubbing in the excess bits that come off, I'll just rub them in. Trying to achieve a nice smooth surface here before I start working on the veins, which will then hopefully give the leaf some form. Just to get a nice edge on this leaf before I start that. Use a nice dark colour, perhaps this blue. I'm using a blue here, which will hopefully form a nice edge on this leaf, and which I'm going to blend in so it will appear to be green, a dark green. Using the side of the pastel just to softly blend it in. Some green over it. Get rid of that line that's formed there. You'll see what a forgiving medium this actually is. You can keep working into it. If all fails, you can scrape it off and fix whatever it is that's not working properly. Okay, now I'm going to use the kebab stick. I've cut the one edge. The one edge is pointed naturally, and the other edges I've cut into sort of a chisel shape. To make a tool, which is great for scraping. So if I want to enhance that vein, I can actually scrape off. And I'm carefully going to try and draw the other veins that go up the leaf. You need quite a steady hand for this. Now this is exposing the lighter green that's underneath, which is exactly what I was hoping would happen. Now looking a little bit more like a leaf. Side. It's good if you're doing something like this to study your reference first, study your plant or your photograph, so that you don't have to keep looking at it. When you're doing something as repetitive as this, you can just enjoy the process and not have to check your reference once you've grasped it and felt that leaf and studied the way that the veins run. It's quite a wonderful experience because you really begin to understand a lot more about nature, how actually amazing it is. I've run out of vein space here, so those are just going to flow like that. You can also tidy up an edge with this, maybe using the pointy side. So I can tidy up the edge. One can also use graphite pencil if you really like a nice neat edge, which I perhaps might show you at the end of this if there's time. Also brighten up that edge. I'm going to use the chisel end again to clean that end nicely, that edge. It's very much just personal taste, hard edge and soft edge, whether we like it or not, or which we like, which we prefer. I prefer both. They both have their attributes. I don't have a preference, in other words. Okay, so that's one leaf which is very bringing out the colors really nicely. So I'm going to try the same with this next one. First by filling in the dark green. I think I might use a more blue down here to start with. Green on top. The brighter green here just to work better alongside of that part of the plant. So it goes up there, around, carefully. I don't want to get a nice flow. Composition is very important, the layout of your picture on the paper. So often we start something, do a really nice drawing, I'm sure everyone's experienced this, and you'll find it's totally in the wrong place. You have to cut off a piece of extra paper or something's not quite right, and that happens if we don't prepare and perhaps do a little sketch to start with to get our layout right, to make sure that that composition works. Because if it's out of balance, you might do a beautiful drawing of something and it's not balanced on the paper. It doesn't read very easily to the viewer and it doesn't look as good. I know it's hard to do. You really get really keen to do something, and I'm the world's worst. I jump in it and like a bull at a gate and start a picture without preparing. It takes a few minutes just to prepare that layout for yourself to work from. And then as you go, make adjustments. I hadn't planned initially to put leaves in this, but I just decided that it needs something extra. I'm also thinking I'm going to make this a bit wider now, this leaf. It's about there. Get a nicer balance of space. In composition, your spaces, your shapes balance with the negative space, the white space, background space. That's a whole lesson in itself, actually. And I might change the shape of this leaf here. So as I go, I'm letting the picture dictate to me now what it needs. I'm not so much referring to my reference as I am to this, the picture itself, the artwork. I think that's probably okay. Fortunately, these leaves can be altered because as they turn, as they grow and they cool, or depending on what angle you're looking at them, they change shape visually. Let's put on some of that paler color. It's a yellow. There we go. Just to blend it in nicely. Get a nice smooth effect like we did with the first one. I have to make a decision here about whether to make it lighter or darker at this edge. So I think I'm going to do it lighter as I'm going, and then later on strengthen that purple color on the actual flower. Right, where's it? Dark blue that I used before. A nice dark blue, I think it was this one. Get a nice edge on here. Up here. Maybe in there we'll just strengthen that to make those petals stand out a bit. And dark green. Right. white. I think for this one, I'm going to make it so that the veins flow that way, as if the leaf was curled slightly over, sideways. Otherwise it'll become far too busy in the center if I have a vein running down the center. So it'll be something like that. And this in here. It's an interesting shape here. I don't really want to lose it, so I'm trying to make some contrast there. Darken that edge. Darken these. That's better. It's really now a stage of the picture where you have to look very carefully at what's going to improve it. Right, let's go with the veins. Maybe I'll do a little bit of rubbing in before. It's not blended nice and smooth. Clean that edge a little. This edge. The thicker this goes on, and the more like paint it is actually. If you were to mix it with turpentine or spirits, you'd have oil paint. Okay. Let's go with the veins. To run them. I think I'll start up here to make sure that I've got the direction right. The flow. Nice edge on this petal. When we do this, it scratches through to the brighter colour underneath, so it adds to the highlight on the petal. I think I'm going to make this a little darker in here. To darken this green, I'm using a blue. Which gives a cool green. I mean, I quite honestly think it needs another leaf. I hate to say. I was hoping this would be the end of this particular session, but not going to be. So I feel it still needs another leaf to add a bit of more rhythm to it. So take my blue. I'm going to end it there, perhaps, yeah. I'm not quite sure whether to take it off the edge paper. I think that will be fine. Putting the blue in first this time doesn't really make much difference, I've discovered. Get an idea of the whole composition. Could go on adding leaves, in fact. This one we'll give a vein in the center. Leave a little space there. We'll put some lighter green. Light colour for the center. I'm using a pale green and a pale yellow. Pressing much harder onto the pastel for this top layer, really rubbing it into the texture of the paper. I'm trying to work quickly. The purpose of this exercise, don't want anyone to get bored. But when you do your own picture, you can take as long as you like over it. I generally take a lot of time when doing something like this. In fact, too much time. I must probably overwork just about all of my pictures. Get quite obsessed with the process. It's not a bad thing in art because you can lose yourself in this world. Which in itself is very therapeutic. It's a very plain, flat leaf. Some artists work in the style of keeping things plain, flat and undetailed, which is also fine. It's just a matter of taste. I'm going to put a little darker blue down here, I think. Maybe not. Let's just get that edge a little stronger. Right. I'll put some blue the edge of leaf. This flower is also called the bird of paradise flower, which it very much looks like a bird. Got a little bit of a sticking out there, which I don't really want. I'll just try and scratch it off a little bit. Have to widen the leaf, compensate for that mistake. I'm hoping all the mistakes I make is going to give you confidence to be totally fearless when you go into trying this out, if it is your first time. Veins. And I'm trying to follow the flow of the leaf. This would probably be better in time-lapse video, which I still have to master to save time watching every step. But in some ways I don't like those videos because they make everything look really quick and easy, and it's not at all in real life. So personally I prefer to see the whole process. Here we have a bit of where's my torch line gone? A bit of white showing through. I'm just going to blend it in. The white speckles, which I don't really want here. The paper showing through. Now, I think that's about it for this time. There's obviously a lot more that could be done with this picture. Finishing off edges, adding in little details here and there. But for the purpose of this exercise, it's to inspire and to try to get you motivated at this difficult time to trying something different. And I hope you've gained something from this. Till next time, I'll say bye-bye and enjoy. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments on YouTube. You can subscribe and follow if you'd like to watch more. Thank you.